This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
It looks at this point extraordinarily likely that Zohran Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York. And now many people are aware that he is very far to the left, but they're not probably aware that when people call him a communist or a Marxist, it is not hyperbole. He has said that the overall goal is to seize the means of production, which is the classic communist action to nationalize and concentrate all of the economic power in the hands of the federal government, making everybody essentially a slave of the government. Now, a lot of people say, what's the big deal? Mamdani is not going to be able to nationalize the businesses in New York City, and so he can't turn it into a Marxist state. And so people are being hysterical about what he is able to do. He's going to be constrained by the American system when he is mayor of New York. And that's all very well. That's very likely indeed that he will not be able to implement the fullness of his program. However, we would be naive to think that he could not do immense damage in the time that he serves as mayor of New York. This is in the first place because he will not face any significant pushback. The government of New York is already very far to the left, already very open to socialism, and the Republican Party, any essential actual opposition really, is essentially moribund. People are talking about the possibility that the Republican candidate for mayor, Curtis Sliwa, could benefit from the split on the left. The fact that the incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, and Mamdani are all running on the left could end up with Curtis Sliwa in the mayor's mansion. I think that's I'm sorry to say, I think that's very unlikely, because even splitting the leftist vote in New York City between three candidates, it's still bigger than the number of people who are likely to vote for a Republican. And so the New York City voters are indeed bringing all this upon themselves. And many people would say, well, let them do what they're going to do. If they want to destroy themselves, that's all very well. But of course, the repercussions will be immense for the country as a whole. Once Mamdani begins to implement his policies, it is likely that there will be an economic collapse in New York. This is because any fool with any significant amount of money is going to leave the city rather than be facing his confiscatory tax rates. In Soviet society, in the communist bloc in general, they were able to force the people to stay. And so they had to do the bidding of the central government because it was that or die or live in the gulag. Mamdani is not going to have that luxury. Everybody's just going to leave. He can't build a wall around New York City like in the movie and keep everybody there. And so once New York City collapses economically, he's going to ask the federal government for a bailout. And you will say that, oh, well, Trump will never give him a bailout, just like Ford in 1975 when New York City went bankrupt. And the New York Post very famously ran the headline, Ford to City, drop dead. Trump, of course, is very likely to say the same thing. And it will likely have the same kind of effect, that it will become Trump's fault that New York City has become a pest hole of economic collapse destruction, skyrocketing crime, squalor, everything that you see in the movies like Escape from New York, only worse because it'll be real. It'll be not Mamdani's fault. Mamdani will be the guy trying to save it. Trump will be the culprit. Now, of course, the establishment media that will be putting out this propaganda, they don't have the power that they used to have. And many, many people will not fall for this. At the same time, it is possible, and we have to account for the possibility, that Zohran Mamdani could destroy New York and emerge as the hero for doing so. Because if there is any economic downturn or other problem that starts to turn people away from Trump, then Mamdani is prepared to capitalize. Mamdani and people like him. We have to remember that there is an immense hypocrisy at the heart of the whole Mamdani phenomenon. He says that he's the candidate for the little guy, for the ordinary people, that he's the candidate against billionaires. And yet he has accepted a great deal of money from organizations that are funded by George Soros, who is, of course, a multi-billionaire and the great funder of leftist causes. Mamdani is actually one of a series. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was the first. Omar Fateh, who is likely to be the next mayor of Minneapolis, is the next one in line, and there are going to be very many others. Look at the paradigm. What you have is an attractive, non-white candidate with immigrant background who is an open socialist, who poses as the candidate of the little guy while taking big Soros bucks, and who has a populist appeal, claiming to be the real representative of the people versus the fake representative of the people who is really the tool of his fellow billionaires, Donald Trump. Now, as I said, a lot of people don't fall for this kind of nonsense anymore. It's propaganda, and many, many people in the United States understand it as propaganda. The problem is an unusually large number of people still don't realize what game is being played, or how they are being manipulated, or how Zohran Mamdani is being sold to them like soap flakes and packaged and presented to them as the next big thing, the bright young man who's going to fix everything. Well, really, what we have is a situation that could go wrong in so very many ways. I don't have time to deal with all of them in this brief segment. However, it is worth bearing in mind that if this open socialist and obvious Marxist does become mayor of New York, as seems likely, it's not enough just to shrug and say, well, they brought it upon themselves, they had it coming, because the repercussions could be very great for the entire nation. Another thing that I could mention is that it does legitimize this kind of candidate, when previously it would have been, just a few years ago, would have been inconceivable for an open socialist with a long record of support for shady and indeed open terrorist organizations. It never would have flown. But now the Overton window, as they say, has shifted. And it's useful also to note that New York City is in such bad shape that the best they can do against this fellow is Andrew Cuomo, a corrupt establishment figure if there ever was one, and Mayor Eric Adams, who is not really all that far behind in terms of his far leftism. So it is something they have indeed brought upon themselves, but it is something that all of us are going to have to deal with and try to contain the damage. So we can all hope that there will be some unexpected circumstance that will end up with Mamdani losing the mayoral election. Right now, that's not on the horizon. And so buckle up. It's going to be an adventure. Thank you very much. I'm Robert Spencer.